but we are in the series Supernatural, and I want you to write this idea down, and I want you to write the theme down for today. Unity wins the game. Write that down, please. Unity wins the game. Now, this is going to be very important for our couples and all of those who are working with other people on your job, people that are working together in the church. And let me just be blank, people that you don't, working with people that you don't like, okay? People that get on your nerve, your last nerve is gone, it's gone. Okay, I'm talking about them kind of people. This is what this message is when you get to your last nerve and you think this can't be, this ain't gonna work, this isn't gonna be. Listen to me, this message for you. Unity wins the game, okay? Everyone say that with me. Unity wins the game. Now, let me begin by saying, since we're talking about the supernatural, I think I shared, how many remember I shared with you last week that my truck was stolen? How many remember that? Okay, all right. So let me tell you the position that I was put in. Last week, my truck was stolen, and I had to decide by Monday whether to go, because I had gotten a tip on a church bus, which I'm excited about, because we need a church bus to go pick up people and to bring them to church come the first of the year. So if you want to volunteer or something like that, you can also fill out another connection card and put that in. But we had an opportunity on a church bus, and it looked almost too good to be true. But my truck was stolen, and the bus was in South Carolina. Okay, so what do you do when your stuff is stolen and the police aren't doing anything? And I got to find that truck, because you ever seen the TV show 48 Hours? You got 48 hours to find your stuff or to find who's wrong, or it's done. Well, here I had a choice. I could either go get that bus or stay here and try to help the police find my truck so that I'm not out a vehicle and still have to pay on it and all that stuff. Y'all understand how that is, all right? I got a family of 6, you know what I'm saying? We can't go to the restaurant together. We got to break out in cars. You don't know what that means. And the gas we got to spend, you know what I mean? So having one truck that could put everybody in was a blessing, you know what I mean? It was what I used to go get all the extra stuff that Lowe's would donate to the church. It was like, this is very important. But it came down to this one thing. We are in a supernatural world. And I've been preaching and teaching and talking about that world. And how many remember the sermon I talked about my motorcycle that got stolen? And how the enemy stole my motorcycle, but I stood on the end of the street and I said, devil, you took my bike, you made the thief take my motorcycle, then you make that thief bring my motorcycle back. And then I told you the story of how that bike came back to my house and the thief gave it to me himself. Well, if God is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore, and I'm talking supernatural, then nothing changes. I had a choice to make, and my choice was simply this. I go take care of God's business and trust God to take care of mine. I said, God, I go get your bus. You go get my truck. And so what I do, I got my 2 daughters. 2 daughters, come up here, please. I want you to stand up here. Come here. These are my daughters. I train and I pour into them. And I talk about that we have to be in unity on what we believe, okay? And so tell me if I'm telling the truth. Didn't I call you guys together, right? And I said, okay, I got to leave. I got to go do God's business. And I said, but I want my truck back. And if he could get my motorcycle back, he can get my truck back too. Now, here's the funny thing. When they took my truck, my neighbors watched them drive it out of the parking lot and roll it down the road, jump in, and drive off. Didn't call the police. And they had taken that car. It was gone. And so we prayed, and the prayer we prayed was, I said, I put a time limit on it. What did I say? I said, God, in 2 sundowns, I want my truck back. And we prayed together and we said, amen. And then I got on a plane and I flew off to go get that bus because I couldn't drive. And when I got there, it was 48 hours, 2 sundowns later, I got a call from the police, didn't I? And the police said this. They said, Mr. Yates, this is going to sound crazy. We're in the middle of Mount Dora, and there's these woods. And there's no way up in these woods, but somehow in the back of these woods, we were looking for something else and came across a truck that's locked up. It looks clean, no dents, no nothing wrong with it, but it's sitting in the middle of the field. It's got your license on it. Is this your truck? I said, name it. Call it out. And they named me the D. I said, that's my truck. They said, what you want to do? I said, hold tight. My wife is coming to get it. And my wife drove my truck home in what? 2 sundowns. Somebody give God a great hand clap of praise. 2 sundowns. What is my point? If you take care of God's business, God will take care of. I'm telling you, when it comes to giving, if you give to God, God will take care of your bills. He'll take care of your jobs. He'll take care of your children. And when it comes to being kind to other people, if you're kind to them, God will be kind to you. If you're kind to the poor, He'll take care of you. This is what we must learn as believers in the supernatural. Somebody say amen. It's in this understanding that it's unity that wins the game. We must be unified with God in this thought that, listen, we got to do it His way. And sometimes we've got to work together when we do things. I wanted to share that update, but the idea is there are times when we come to church and there are people in our church that we just don't get along with. What do you do when you don't get along with somebody that you're supposed to be believers with? What do? Unity wins the game. Listen, in any sports competition, it takes a team working together to win against their opponents. This is the truth. It takes unity to win the game. And that way, and that's why I titled this message today, It Takes Unity to Win the Game. But in the context of the church today, the game is not simply putting points on a scoreboard. It's about winning souls to the kingdom of God. Why do I say that? Because the battle must first begin in the house of God, among each other. With unity under one vision to win the lost, local leaders, elders, members, volunteers can make a difference in this world. We can come together and change our city. Leesburg is bleeding right now. Leesburg doesn't know which way to go. It's not going to be business that directs Leesburg. It's not going to be anything else. It's going to be the church. It's going to be you and you and you and you that stand in the moment with God and direct the people where to go. It's going to take unity to win this game. This is what we are talking about. With unity, we can make a difference in this world. But where there's disunity, we put in jeopardy the battle for men's souls. When there is disunity among ourselves, that's what happens. And thus, Paul the apostle writes to the church at Philippi that there was disunity in the local church. Now, before we go any further, let's describe unity. Write this down, please. Unity is oneness of mind, feeling, or agreement. Oneness of mind, feeling, or agreement. In other words, harmony. Harmony. Amen. And how many can sing in here? How many can sing? How many can sing better in a shower? Amen. All right? See, you can sing. Unity is when you can put notes together and you start to harmonize. But disunity comes when there's a lack of oneness of mind, lack of feeling, or lack of agreement. It's called disharmony. It's the sound we make when we think we got the right pitch, but we don't. There are some in my family that can sing and some that cannot sing, and so I don't jump in when they're singing. And it's the same way with some of us. We've got to know whether we can sing. How many have seen, what's that? He Got Talent? What's that called? America's Got Talent? Half the show is about people who think they got talent, and they don't. Half the show. And nobody's willing to tell them. No one says, hey, bro, no, they ain't working, right? Well, you got to be honest with each other in order to have unity. Now, let me say this to you. Paul's great gospel had a thrust, and I'm going to give you a little background here. Thrust in the city of Philippi, and you read that in the book of Philippians. But it was put in jeopardy, and he was trying to take the gospel to the city. And I see this in church after church after church, that when disunity happens, it hinders the gospel to go out into the city. Here's what I plan to do. Not only are we going to get a bus, we got the bus now down here. It's going to be awesome. We're going to wrap it. If anybody got anybody that they think is great at wrapping buses, let me know. But we're going to wrap that bus to reach the lost. But not only are we going to do that, we're going to do something with the billboard. We're going to start announcing people who we are, where we are, so they know who we are as a church. Because people don't know God's there unless you are there to announce it. I want you to turn to your neighbor and say, God is real. No. See, some of y'all did it like you were asleep. Turn to him and say it with confidence. God is real. Now turn to a stranger and say the same thing. Oh, see, it got quiet. What happened there? Turn to a stranger and say with boldness, God is real. That's right. We got to get used to doing that. God is real. Do it again. Say it out loud. And say, Jesus is my Messiah. Come on, say it like you mean it. Jesus is my Messiah. You got to be bold about it. You got to not be timid. Well, everybody got their own point of view. No, listen, there is one God who made heaven and earth. Your opinion doesn't mean nothing when it comes to God. Hello, somebody. So we've got, Jesus said this, if you are afraid of me in front of men, then I'll be ashamed of you in front of the angels of God and my Father. You don't want God to do one of these numbers when you get to heaven because we're ashamed to talk about him. But that's why we're trying to get the word out and let people know. And this is what was happening in the church of Philippi. Paul had just gotten there, and he wanted to get the word out and let people know about Jesus. But because there was disunity among certain people in the church, it hindered the gospel. Man, we've been open for 10 years, going on 10 years. And I've seen our church grow, shrink, grow, shrink, grow, shrink. It's just like this. It's like a breathing machine. Why? Because if disunity happens, it hinders the movement of God. And here's what happened in Paul's day. Do you know that one of the greatest evangelism tools that you will ever find is how we treat each other as believers? Can you imagine how people treat each other in public is the greatest testimony that you can ever give? You ever seen a husband and wife fighting in public? You ever seen that? I always tell people how you know how close a couple is, right? Like if they're walking in the mall and he back there with the kids and she walking ahead of him like this and they 5 feet apart, there's something wrong with that relationship. But when they're holding hands and they're walking together, then you know that relationship is all right, all right? Just shake your head. You don't even have to say nothing. Don't say nothing out loud. But the truth is that there must be unity. People can tell unity when they see it. If you're loving on one another, if there's somebody in our church that's hurting, need a car, need a place to stay, need food, and we're opening up our bowels of kindness to them, then the church sees that, and the church and the world sees it and says, man, there must be something about God. But when we have disunity with one another, it's the opposite. Go to John 15 and 17. I'm going to bring some verses in. Amen. John 15 and 17. Now, this is one way we can be unified. I want you to start inviting people to our first service of the year. Now, Dr. J. LaRue, due to some of the flights and some of the issues with coronavirus, won't be able to do his New Year Eve service here. And so he's coming the first Sunday, I think first or second Sunday of the year. All right? So I want you to invite your friends and family. That's how we can show unity together. But John 15:17, I want you to read it together. Please, go.
These things I command you, that ye love one another.
Say it again.
These things I command you, that ye love one another.
Now, this context is not to love the world. This context is to the local church. I want you to love one another. Now, when does love need to show up? Can I ask you a question? When does love need to show up? See, love is needed when things are bad and when things are good. Love is needed. See, listen, to love somebody only when they treat you right and only when they give you what you're looking for is not love at all. True love is when they've messed up. I mean, you bought those brand new white gym shoes and they step on them. That's when love is needed. What love is needed is when you had that Christmas dinner and those stuffing just didn't taste right. Love is needed. Not in my house. It was awesome. It was awesome. Okay. Listen, this says, by this command, these things I command you. This is Jesus talking to you. I command you. It wasn't a suggestion. It wasn't a request. It was a command. I command you. Love one another. I want you to look around the room, and I want you to hear it as I say it. I command you. Love one another. Love one another. Love one another. Don't forget about your preacher. A lot of people forget I need love too. Love one another. What does that mean? That means sometimes when things are wrong, you stay there. You fight for them. You speak up for them. When there is confusion, you don't give up because of confusion. You stay there and you weed out the confusion. You know, one of the greatest issues people do is it's called the bandwagon approach. They live life according to the bandwagon. What everybody does, that's where they go. If the bandwagon says it's not a good thing, they leave. If it's a good thing, if they think it's a bad thing, they leave. If it's a good thing, they stay. I don't want you to follow the bandwagon. You stay until God tells you yourself to leave. You stay with that person. You work with that person. You strive. Even on that job where that boss is treating you crazy. What if instead of tightening up and pulling back that you do the opposite, open up and give out more, that maybe you might win that person to the Lord. It is unity that wins the game. Go to John 13 and 35. John 13:35. It's all right, baby. It's all right. It's all right, baby. All right, here we go. Are you ready? John 13:35. I want you to read it.
By this all men know.
Okay, let's try that again now that we know where we are. Go. Okay, by this all men, what all men? People that we are trying to reach. We got to love each other. A couple months ago, Brother James put together a men's event. I didn't ask him to, he did it. And he put an event together and all the men got together and we had a great time. And he was showing love one to another. And it's the same thing with our women. Listen, you don't need the church to do it for you. Listen, call the women of the church together. Call a prayer time. Call a place to come together. Let's do something. Let's let the men do something. Let's go out and eat. Let's do something together. Let's pray together. Let's get on Zoom and have a Bible study. Let's do something together so we can connect. By this shall all men know you are my what? Disciples. What is a disciple? Somebody in the process of growing in God. Wow. You know you are growing in God when you are loving on your neighbor. I didn't say lust, I said love. Amen. That means you're not taking advantage of people. You are there for them. You are helping them. This is what God wants us to do as a church. Now, I want you to understand something. Paul wrote this to Philippi, and if you know anything about Philippi, there was an issue going on in the church. Paul wrote to the deacons and the bishops in Philippi to address an issue of disharmony between two women in the church who were putting in jeopardy the big picture. Do y'all hear me? Listen. You've got to love each other enough not to let anybody put the big picture in jeopardy. What does that mean? We have a no gossip policy here at this church. Can someone tell me that they're perfect? Raise your hand, please. Can I see somebody imperfect? Can you raise your hand, please? See, this is the reality that we live by, is that we all are imperfect. This is a place where we grow and we are healed. But some people love to come in and pick out everybody's problems. Listen, stop judging your neighbor. Stop looking at somebody else and saying, oh, man, look what their flaws are. Look at their flaws are. God didn't call us to check out other people. He called us to check out ourselves. Amen? We need to look around from the shoulders down and do a checkup from the neck up. That's all we're called to do. But people in the church, sometimes you get in the church and all they do is talk about each other. That's not what we're here for. But this happened with two women. I want you to turn to Philippians chapter 4, starting at verse 2. If you never saw this is the first time you're going to see this. Paul went into the city of Philippi, and there were two women that were fighting. And when they were fighting, they were putting in jeopardy the big picture that God was trying to do. Okay? Now, look at this. Verse 2. If you have it, I'm going to read it to you. It says, I urge Euodia and I urge Syntyche to live in what? Harmony. Is it up on our screen? Okay, so we've got a different version. Let's go to, is that King James? All right, let's do the NLT. See if it's in the NLT, and we'll do it that way. All right, let's see. That's a different one too. How about, do we have the NASB? Let's try that one. I like that one. Okay. There we go. Okay. Everyone read it together. Go. I urge Euodia and I urge Syntyche to live in harmony in the Lord. Two people in the church to live in harmony. Verse 3. Go. Indeed, true companion, I ask you also to help these women who have shared my struggle in the cause of the gospel, together with Clement also, and with the rest of my fellow workers whose names are in the book of life. Let me talk about Euodia for a second. Euodia means success. Write that down. Euodia means success. She was a person who was probably used to success, always had her way, whatever she put her mind to. When she said this is the way to do it, that's the way it should go. She usually didn't have people telling her no, and she was always used to success. And what we know, she had a measure of ministerial success in helping Paul the apostle. Although we don't know much about her, we do know, according to Paul, that she labored in the gospel to win souls with Paul, just like Syntyche, who she had a conflict with. Her name was written in the Lamb's Book of Life, just like Syntyche, who she had a problem with. She was a born-again Christian, just like Syntyche, who she had a conflict with. It is not uncommon for two strong believers to have a disagreement. It is not uncommon. Now, we've got some strong-willed people in our church. Very strong-willed. Have you ever run up against somebody that's very strong-willed? Okay? Point to them right now if you have. No, don't do it. 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 You can point to yourself. Okay. You run against a strong-willed person, sometimes it seems like you're butting your head against a wall. Okay? And it feels like, man, we'll never, ever be able to get it together. But when you bump heads, that's not the problem. You can always work things out. The problem becomes when it hinders the gospel. When what you're bumping heads about causes other people to wonder if you're really Christian. Wow. Let's see what it means. In the scripture, there was a story of Paul and Barnabas. And Paul wanted to go visit the churches that he had gone and evangelized. And Barnabas was his helper. And Barnabas says, yeah, let's go do it. But Barnabas says, let's bring John Mark. John Mark was a minister that used to go with them before. But Paul said, no, don't bring him. Because the last time we went on a trip, he left early. And it caused a problem. It's like getting a group of people to go on a cruise and someone backs out at the last minute. Paul was like, this is too much. We can't bring John Mark. And the conflict between John and Paul was so contentious that they separated from one another. And guess what? Do you think the gospel was helped or hindered? It was hindered. I put Eudia in the league of the least likely. Why? Not because of what she did or the conflict she was in, but what she had the opportunity to do. She had been given the same opportunity like you and I to mend disunity among us and renew our calls to win souls for the Lord. Here's what I'm calling you, each of you, into doing. Forget what you see. Forget what people have said. I'm calling you to harmony. I'm calling you to come back to church, not because of what a church has hurt you or what someone's done to you or what was missing. I want you to come back because you have each other. I want you to look around again. These are your brothers and sisters. And if you don't show up, if you're not the person, you've got a gift that they need. Now, I can get up here and prophesy over all these children, but how many know there are people in our congregation that can do it even better than me? And if you get to know them, you'll learn, man, just because I know them, man, it's helped me so much because they spoke into my life at the right time, at the right place. We've got to come together as a church, especially coming into 2022, because in that year, we want to reach this city for Christ, and we want to pack out the building from the pew up to the top, and we want to have another building that we got to work on. How do we do that? It's we reach out and we tell people, you know what, I'm a Christian, and I invite you out to come and learn about who he is. That's unity. That's being the best person on your job. You come on time. You leave on time. You don't stay at lunch a little extra because you can. No, you do what's right for whatsoever you do as unto the Lord. And when you do that, you win people to the Lord. Now, I look at this and it really is amazing to me that. Let me explain from Paul's perspective what was at stake. Paul planted a church based on a vision. I planted this church based on that vision. Everyone look to the wall. If you never noticed it, can we read it together? To establish the largest multicultural church that, So God together in unity. Listen, the way it works is when we reach the lost, those who don't know Jesus. And we serve our community like we were just talking about with giving out gifts to those people that are in distress. Then when we come together on Sundays, guess what's going to happen? The presence of God comes, and everybody will experience it. How many want to experience the presence of God? Anybody want to be? Listen, how many have ever spoken in tongues before? How many want to speak in tongues? How many don't know what that is? Come on, let's try that again, and don't be ashamed. How many have spoken in tongues before? How many want to speak in tongues? How many don't know what that is? Okay, so listen to me. The way that tongues is the way to talk to God in a language that nobody knows but him. It's called the language of angels. And it allows you to pray prayers you couldn't pray with your natural mind. You know what brings that into fruition? The presence of God. And when we are together and we're praying one for another, the presence of God comes, and all of a sudden the gifts begin to manifest, and you begin to talk to God in a way that you've never spoken before. I remember I thought nobody could speak in tongues. Nobody. I thought that was something in the Old Testament. But then I asked God, if it's real, let it happen to me. And I remember going to a preacher's house, and he said, yeah, it's real. Mark 16 says, and they shall speak in other tongues. And he says, you'll have it in 10 minutes. And I said, who is this man that can tell me I can speak in tongues in 10 minutes? He can't tell God what to do, but he said 10 minutes. So I was willing to wait. Hello, somebody. And that man laid hands on me, and in 10 minutes, I'm sitting there, and nothing was happening. And then he walked away, prayed for my wife, and she started speaking in tongues. I was so mad. I'm like, now, come on now. This was for me, God, and you done gave it to my wife. She's like, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, now, that don't make no sense. So you know what I did? I turned my face to the wall. And I just began to worship God and tell him I loved him, I cared about him, and before long, in a couple of seconds, the tongues came flowing out of me. So how do you get tongues? Face the wall and worship the Lord. But that's where the presence of the Lord comes in, and he sees your need. You see, like when we planted this church to reach the lost and reach the people of Leesburg and Eustis and Wildwood and all of these other areas, that was the vision. But the only way to do that is through unity. I want you to turn in your Bibles as we get ready. We're getting ready to close. But Acts chapter 16. Acts chapter 16, verses 9 and 10. We're going to start at 9. Now watch this. A vision appeared to Paul in the night. Paul was preaching the gospel somewhere else, but a vision appeared to him in the night. A man of Macedonia was standing and appealing to him and saying, come over, come over. I need you in Macedonia. I need you in Leesburg. I need you in Eustis. I need you in Mount Dora. I have need of you, Paul. Spiritually, the soul of the city was crying out, I need you. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to know why Frontier Church is here? It's because Frontier Church was called out of Tallahassee. And God said to me, plant a multicultural church in Leesburg. Why? Because it needs it. And God says that I'll bring people to the mission that will cause it to flourish. Paul had the vision, but there was an issue with two ladies fighting one another that could put the vision in jeopardy. Look at verse 9. A vision appeared to Paul in the night. A man is standing and appealing to him, saying, come over to Macedonia and help us. Look at verse 10. Paul says, when he had seen the vision, immediately we sought to go to Macedonia. Me and my wife picked up out of Tallahassee, and we found a job here in Lake County, and we moved here. And God said, you know what? There's such a racial divide in Lake County that there's like black church and there's white church, but there's not a multicultural church. And we said, God, we want to build that in this city. And verse 10, he said, when he saw the vision, he immediately sought to go Macedonia, concluding that God had called us to preach the gospel unto them. It might have been a daunting task, yet the man appeared to Paul crying out, help us, help us. So what that tells me, ladies and gentlemen, as we close, is that the city was ripe for evangelism. What am I saying to you? What should we do when we are in conflict with one another? If you would, this last chapter, I want you to turn in your Bibles to chapter 2 of Philippians as we get ready to close. And here's what he admonishes us. As I said, unity wins the game. Unity is how we win. When you come to church, I want every one of you, listen to me, to memorize our vision. Every one of you should memorize our vision. Parents, teach your children. Men, women, memorize our mission. Pursue purpose and impact the world. These are the two things I want you to do from now on. I may call on you next Sunday. Here's what I'm going to do next Sunday. We're going to talk about what it takes to find your purpose and your vision for your life, to know that you're on track with God. What are you striving for as a believer? What are you striving for as a Christian? What's the purpose of all of this? Why go to church? Why come and fellowship with one another if you don't have a goal? Well, starting in January, I'm going to start teaching you exactly what it is, and it might just blow your mind. You might discover parts of yourself you never knew were there. But here's what Paul says in closing. In chapter 2, starting at this is Philippians chapter 2, verse 2, 3, and 4. Philippians chapter 2, verses 2, 3, and 4. Can we all read it together? Let's read. Make my joy complete by being of the what? Now, when you have too many visions, it's called what? Division. You got to have the same vision. Here's what we're here about: to establish the largest multicultural church that reaches the lost, serves our community, and experiences the presence of God together in unity. What is my goal? My goal is to help you pursue purpose and impact the world. It's for you that my goal is. He says we be of the same mind, maintaining what? United in what? Intent on what? Intent on one purpose. Look at verse 3. Do nothing from what? So if you come to church and you're about to do something and it's to let other people see you, don't do it. If you're coming to show off, don't do it. Do nothing from selfishness or empty what? Conceit. But what? With humility of mind, regard one another more. Wow. Many times we look at each other and we think, meet my needs. But what the Bible really tells us is to look at the person next to you and see, hey, they're more important than me. How can I meet their needs? Not about, oh man, woe is me. But hey, listen, how can I help you today? How are you doing? How's your life going? How can I help you get through? Is there anything I could pray about? These are ways that we help one another. Look what it says. Verse 4. Read it out loud, please. Stop. Let's read it again. Personal interest, but also, this is where we close. Would you stand to your feet, please? We don't look out for our own personal interests, but we are to look out for the interests of others. I'm going to ask you to think about, is there somebody right now that needs your help? Is there somebody in your orbit, in your circle of influence, that could use you right now? Is it a family member that maybe you had problems with and they just need to know that you love them? You may not be able to fix it, but you can say, I love you. It may be a neighbor whose grass needs to be cut. It may be a sister or brother you had a falling out with that you can call and say, you know what? No matter what we've been through, I'm not giving up on you. Maybe you need to say that to your husband or say that to your wife. I'm not quitting. Maybe your child that thinks you're just always on top of them, always. You just say, you know what? I do things out of love because I love you. And watch, I want to pray for you right now. What power can we show each other? Would you lift your hands right now?